and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 276, and today's date is January 29th, 2014, and the title of this episode is, As the Fed Tapers, the U.S. Reports Syria Might Have Biological Weapons, and we're going to get into that a little later in this report. But let me just start off with welcoming those new subscribers on YouTube. If you have not visited the x22report.com site, come on over. I have a timeline called the Economic Collapse. It's a menu item on top of the site. Just click on it. It will bring you to it. It is a overview of what has been happening, and I continually update that. I also track products for inflation and deflation, and you can see that. There's a little graph, and I keep a record of if the prices are going up or down. And you can also, there are other tabs up on the site, but you can go to the people. That is a forum of like-minded people, and they're talking about the economic collapse and many other different issues that are going on around the world. And for those people who have donated, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. It keeps the forum going, it keeps the site going, keeps me going, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. For those people who are on the email alert system, it is still not working. I am installing the new software, and I will be transferring your information to the new software that I am installing, and hopefully I'll get this back up and working again. What happened was I upgraded. There was a bug, and I tried to go back to the previous version, and of course I got all these ridiculous error messages. I contacted the software manufacturer. They've been trying to get it to work. Other people are complaining about the same thing, so I decided to change everything out, and I will let you know when everything is ready to go. And for those people who have been emailing, that is the reason why you have not been receiving the alert messages for each episode. But we'll get that up and running, and it will be fixed very soon. Let's get into the economic collapse news. We're going to head out to Cyprus right now, and they're on their third bailout review. Of course, we understand a year ago they did bail-ins. They locked down the banks. They told people they were only going to take 8 to 10% of their deposits, and they actually ended up taking 47%. And again, these people went to sleep one night, woke up the next morning, and they said, you know, the banks are closed. Whatever's in there is in there. And then they implemented capital controls where no one could take out money. They were only allowed to take out like $200 or $300 a day. And they said, oh, those capital controls will only be in effect for about 2 weeks or so. And 2 weeks, you know, came and gone, and they were still in effect. A month went by, 2 months went by, and here we are almost a year later, and the capital controls are still in effect. And right now, they did a bail-in and a bailout where they received loan money, and right now they're going through the next review. And the banks are struggling to cope with these bad loans in the economy, and the bad loans in Cyprus make up around 46% of all the loans. That is about 19 billion euros. And those loans are considered toxic, sour, whatever you want to call them, they're bad. And this is equivalent to about 120% of the gross domestic product in Cyprus. And again, the government, of course, is out there saying, listen, you know, we're going to very soon, we expect to lift most of the controls in the coming months. But they've been saying this for over, you know, many months now, going on a year, and we'll have to see how this plays out once they start lifting. I mean, really think about it. Once they start lifting these capital controls, these people are going to run to the bank to get their money out, because this is the first thing that I'd be thinking, like, oh, I have a chance to get my money out, and this is what they are afraid of. I don't even care if they give guarantees that your money's safe, because I don't think people are going to believe them because of the amount of time these capital controls were in effect. Now, in France, we understand in France and Spain, Portugal, Italy, the whole entire region. Unemployment is skyrocketing. We understand that they're in a huge amount of debt. They're imposing new taxes on the people to boost revenue. And in France, foreign investments have fallen by 77% in 2013. This does not look good for France at all. And you have to remember, the president of France just this past summer and fall said, hey, they're in a recovery. We're seeing that we're going to come out of this and things look fabulous. Like I said, remember, it's always the opposite of what they say. It is completely not true. They try to do this for propaganda purposes to make everyone feel good. It's almost like the State of the Union that the president gave last night. It was a feel good for the American people, but all those things, just turn them around and think of the opposite of what he said. I'm going to create jobs. Well, no, he's not, because he said he was going to create jobs for that. I created 8 million jobs. No, he didn't. We lost more jobs. Just think of everything in the other way, and you'll understand what he is talking about. Now, the Spanish people, we understand that they are also they're having troubles. Unemployment is skyrocketing, debts are skyrocketing, and they can't, get their country working just like every single other country in the Eurozone, because it's impossible to do anything with the amount of debt and the amount of unemployment that is going on. And they are raiding, the pension funds, they're raiding the Social Security reserves, and right now they're looking at the black market saying, hey, that black market is untapped for taxes, and that is about 25% of the GDP in Spain. And this goes on to say that under-the-table business dealings grew on average by 15 billion euros annually in the 4-year period after the economic crisis started in 2008. 70% of cash transactions in Spain involve 500 euro notes, the bill most favored in untaxed transactions. And they're trying to figure out, how can we get into the black market to tax people, because this is a great place to go to raise revenue, because they are desperate. Now, in the UK, we understand that the people are having a huge problem out there with the austerity. People are not making enough money. People are taking payday loans just to pay their rent and their mortgages. People are going into their savings just to pay for food and to make ends meet, and people are having a very rough time. And just a couple of years ago, the food banks fed around 346,000 people nationwide. Well, and they didn't have that many food banks at that time. Today, there are about 1,000 food banks across the United Kingdom, and they are operating at full capacity. They are feeding nearly 1 million people. So 5 years ago, they were feeding 340,000. Now they're feeding 1 million. Food banks have seen a 170% increase in demand in just 1 year during 2013, and the trend is set to continue as the austerity drive continues. It is hurting the people in the UK. It is the same in every single country. If you look at Spain, if you look at Portugal, Italy, France, all having problems. People are having a very rough time. Now, in the UK, Barclays is going to close about 400 bank branches, and they're going to lay off thousands of people. We just heard yesterday that I reported on Lloyd's Group was laying off around 1,000 people and more to come, and this is not going to end. This is going to increase as time goes on. And here in the U.S., what are we seeing? Well, Time Inc. is laying off about 500 jobs. EMC Corp. laying off 1,100 people. Ashland Inc. laying off up to about 1,000. So we see all these layoffs, and people are having a very rough time. And this brings me to the unemployment. And we understand that the unemployment is at 6.7% right now, and we understand that the unemployment extension benefit has not been approved by the Congress. They decided not to go ahead with it. It's still pending there, and they're still looking at it, but it's slated for about 1.3 million people to fall off unemployment. Now, most of these people, what's going to happen is they'll try to look for a job, as they've been doing, and some of them will give up, and some of them will get part-time jobs, making either the same or a little bit more or a little bit less than unemployment. But what's going to happen is that Washington and the Fed are going to count them as employed, even though they're making hardly any money, because this is not the job that they were really looking for. They're settling on a part-time $10, $11 an hour job. But under Washington's calculations, what's going to happen is they're going to be seen as employed, but really they are underemployed, and the unemployment rate is going to fall again, and pretty soon we're going to be in the range of around 5.9% or so, around that area, and people are going to cheer and say, hurrah, look at that, the economy is recovering. But it is a complete illusion, because the calculation has completely been changed. It's manipulated since 1994. I know I've said this over and over and over again, but all these numbers have been manipulated. If you don't understand what I'm saying, go back to my previous reports and you'll see what I am talking about. And talking about manipulated statistics, every time the U.S. government comes out with a statistic, they always seem to go back later quietly and they revise it without anyone knowing. Now, you have to remember, December they said manufacturing is up. Oh my God, it beat expectations. This is fantastic. It came in at 57 and we beat the expectation of 56.8. And what they did was they went back to December and they quietly revised it down to 56.5. So really that counts as a miss. And if you look at this, the ISM U.S. Manufacturing Index for December was revised from 56.5 from 57. The ISM U.S. Manufacturing New Orders Index for December was revised from 64.4 from 64.2 previously. The ISM U.S. Manufacturing Employment Index for December revised to 55.8 from 56.9 previously. ISM U.S. Non-Manufacturing New Orders Index revised to 50.4 in December from 49.4 previously. So we can see what is happening. They continually go back and they revise the numbers. They don't let anyone really know. They do it very quietly, and everyone believes that during that month it was a banner month. Now, we understand that unemployment is horrific here in the United States, and about 500,000 veterans who served for the country of the United States cannot find a job. This is how bad it is out there. Remember, all those advertisements, go out, join the military, get specialized skills, so whenever you finish with your term in the armed forces, you can go out and find a job. Well, 500,000 cannot find work anywhere. Now, we understand that the Fed is continually tapering, and we saw the market come down today. It was down about 190 points, and just this 1 month already, it's over about an 850 points decline in the market, and this looks just the same as in 1929, in 2008, where we hit the top. The Fed is now pulling back because it's all they can do, and there's nothing left for them. And what's happening is the market is starting to teeter up top. It hit a high, it's coming down, and as the Fed continually pulls back, what's going to happen? The market is going to continually come down. And guess what? The big players know this. And Marc Faber was out there saying that the insiders are already pulling their money out of the market, and they realize what is happening. And we have to remember back to 2008. He also said, if you look at what happened back then, the the U.S. population saw a decrease of 40% in their wealth. This time, what's happening is the insiders who pumped up the market because the Fed was giving easy money to everyone, they pumped it up, they made people, the retail investor, believe that the market's going to continually rise, and these people got into the market. Now the insiders are quietly removing their money, taking their profits, and what they're leaving is the retail investors in the market, because when the market comes crashing down, they are going to lose everything, just like it happened in 2008. But this time, it's going to be much, much worse. And we have to remember, Lagarde is out there saying we have to, be very careful as the Fed tapers. Things can become unstable and things might come crashing down. And even the U.S. bank regulators are out there warning about bubbles, fearing loan bubbles, and they're sending up warning flares saying, be very careful here. It seems like there are a lot of bubbles formed, and it seems like they're starting to deflate, pop, whatever you want to call them. But we have to remember there's a housing bubble, and we understand what's happening in housing. There is a stock market bubble. We understand what's happening. There's a treasury bond bubble. There is a student loan bubble. There is a derivatives bubble. All of this is going to come to the top, which we're at right now, I do believe, and it's going to teeter up there for a little while, and then all of a sudden something's going to happen, some type of an event, and everything's going to come crashing down. And of course, I've said this many times, this event will be blamed on another country. It will be a false flag event because the Fed and the U.S. government do not want to be blamed. And it's much easier to have something go off here in the U.S. and blame another country, and it will probably be some type of multi-pronged false flag event that has to do with a cyber attack that will shut down the financial system, which they'll declare a bank holiday, will have capital controls put into effect, and bail-ins will begin. And this is why they made the bail-in documents. This is why they took the time in December of 2012 to create the FDIC Bank of England document. That document was created, and then in March of 2013, they did a test, and that was Cyprus, and it worked well. People didn't complain, nobody said anything, there was no rioting, people just sat back and watched their money being stolen. And they said, that worked out really well. Let's now take this document and give it and let everyone copy it. So the Eurozone took it, they have a copy, their bail-in plans are set. Australia has their copy, Switzerland has their copy, Canada has their copy, and they are ready. This is what this bail-in document was for. This is what they did in 2012. It was in 2013. This was a test, and it worked out, and they are ready to bring the entire system down. And this is what is happening right now because they realize they can't keep this going. There is going no place. All of it is a complete illusion. It has no basis in reality whatsoever. All calculations, inflation, GDP, unemployment are all manipulated, and they've manipulated it many, many times to fit the illusion. And if you listen to the president as he was going on the State of the Union, he went back and he told you that we're in a housing recovery, that our unemployment is low, we are recovering, and he continually went on and on about how great the economy is. But we know better. We know exactly what is going on. Now, we understand the Affordable Care Act is a complete disaster, and people call it the Obamacare, and everyone knows how I feel about it. If you don't understand, I do not feel that this is for the people whatsoever. I am not on the Democrat side. I'm not on the Republican side. I'm on the people side. I rather see something that's best for the people. I don't care about the sides. And Obamacare, when you implement taxes and put taxes on the people and penalize them for not taking Obamacare, that is not for the people. It is completely against everything that the United States stands for. And what is happening right now is that the youth are not getting into the Obamacare plans, and they thought that the youth were going to fund this system. But you have to remember, The youth unemployment is so high right now, they can't find jobs. The last thing they're thinking about is getting insurance, and this is why it's falling apart. But those people who actually went out and got these plans, they're reporting that their premiums are much higher, and they have a very high deductible. And right now, a senator, Tom Coburn, took Obamacare, and since he's taken Obamacare, by the way, he has cancer, he's saying that his plan does not cover the cancer specialist that he was visiting and the doctor that was taking care of him. So he has to pay out of pocket to see that same doctor. Now he's lucky; he can afford to pay for this doctor out of his pocket. But what about the rest of America who can't take money out of their pocket to pay for their doctor? And we're seeing a lot of this because these plans that they are pushing have very high deductibles, where if you don't know what a deductible is, it's a certain amount of money that you have to pay out of pocket first, and then the insurance policy will then kick in. So if you have a $5,000 deductible, every time you go to the doctor, you pay out of your pocket first until you reach $5,000. Then insurance will pick up the rest. But you're still paying the premiums every single month. So you can go a whole year and pay out $4,000 for doctor visits, never reach your deductible, and you'll be paying $300 a month for your premiums. You've paid all of it out of pocket and received no benefit from the insurance policy. And this is, to me, is not good for the people at all, because all you're doing is taking money out of the people's pocket. The insurance companies are making huge profits because they don't have to lay anything out, and the government is receiving revenue from you paying the insurance premiums, because taxes are hooked to that, and they are making revenue, the insurance companies are making money, and the people, again, are losing out. Now, during the State of the Union, he also talked about gun control, and he went on to say that, that standing up for the lives that gun violence steals from us each day, touching the courage of parents, students, pastors, police officers all over this country who say we are not afraid, and I intend to keep trying with or without Congress to help stop more tragedies from visiting innocent Americans in our movie theaters and our shopping malls, more schools like the ones that are getting hit with the shootings. And he will take this to the next level with or without Congress. And he is telling you right there and then, once we have this horrific event of the next mass shooting, which is going to be bloody, which is going to shock people, you'll know when it hits because he'll be out there on the news telling everyone gun control, gun control, gun control, that we have to get this stuff passed. And you have to remember the UN Arms Treaty is pending in the Senate. Dianne Feinstein bill is pending in the Senate. He already has executive orders already written up to support all of these bills. And you don't have all of this if you're not going to try to push it. And he's telling you right here and right now that if Congress does not pass these at this time after this event, he's just going to go ahead and do it on his own, which he really can't do. But we'll have to see what actually happens once this false flag event hits. Now, of course, Obama was out there telling everyone, oh, he's gotten troops out of Afghanistan, got troops out of Iraq, but lately our troops are going back to Iraq. He wants to keep troops in Afghanistan, and we all know why he needs the troops in Afghanistan. I've discussed this many, many times. President Karzai will not sign the bilateral security deal because of the night raids into people's homes, and they need the U.S. government, the central bankers, need to keep Afghanistan because it's in a strategic location. It's right next to Iran. It bordered the states of Russia. It has a huge copper mine. China is in there helping the Afghan people build their infrastructure. The United States is also in there with their poppy fields that they sell, and they turn into opium, and they sell on the black market to pay for all their covert operations. And this is why he is going to keep troops inside Afghanistan. This is why he is not removing everyone from this location. And this is why they want the president of Afghanistan to sign the security document. Now, U.S. intel confirms that North Korea has just fired up its nuke reactor. And the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, said Wednesday that the North has expanded the size of its uranium enrichment facility in its nuclear complex and restarted a plutonium reactor that was shut down in 2007. And of course, they are building the propaganda because all those countries that do not have a private Western central bank are the enemy of the central bankers. North Korea, Iran, Syria, Russia, China, all of these countries are the enemy of the central bankers, and they have to use this propaganda. They have to use fear tactics. It's all psychological to make people in the U.S. and around the world that these countries are the enemy of the United States. And eventually what they're going to do is they're going to have these countries and they're going to provoke them enough for them to make a move. And this is what we're going to see. Now, the Pentagon test czar who tests the missiles, the interceptor missiles, is putting out a report now saying that the United States is not safe. The Pentagon testing czar on Wednesday said a critical piece of the U.S. missile defense system may require a redesign following multiple test failures. The Defense Department's Operational Test and Evaluation Office concluded in its fiscal 2013 annual report that repeated misfires of the Ground-Based Mid-Course Defense, or GMD, system exo-atmospheric kill vehicle raised questions regarding the robustness of the EKV's design. The three most recent attempts at intercepting a dummy ballistic missile using the Raytheon-developed EKV component have all been unsuccessful. Right now, what they are saying is that these missiles that are going to stop ballistic missiles coming into the U.S. do not work at this time. This is what they are saying. And at the same time that our intercept missiles don't work here in the United States, we have Netanyahu out there saying that Iran is 6 weeks away from a nuclear weapon, that this deal the United States is working out with Iran does absolutely nothing, and they are 6 weeks away from a nuclear weapon. And he's been saying this for many years. Actually, the propaganda goes back 30 years, where they've been saying that they were 3 to 5 months away, and right now, I think he said about 8 weeks ago or 12 weeks ago that they were 6 weeks away, and they're continually using the propaganda to demonize Iran right now. And you have to remember, Iran hasn't started a war in 200 years. Now, of course, Lindsey Graham is out there, and Senator Lindsey Graham has denounced President Barack Obama's foreign policy statements during his State of the Union speech, warning that the world is literally about to blow up. And he went on to say that the Middle East, Iraq, Lebanon, Libya is all disintegrating. The whole region is moving toward chaos, and we're doing absolutely nothing. And he's right about that. The entire region is in chaos right now. The people of these countries are fighting back. They want their countries back. They want the central bankers out. They want the U.S. government out of these countries. And if you haven't heard me before, the people who rise up in the Middle East, they are called Al-Qaeda. So the people who are rising up in the country, the United States, the central bankers, call them Al-Qaeda, so you think it's terrorists, but it really isn't. It is the people of the countries trying to force out the central bankers and the U.S. government from these countries. And these people are rising up. They are making huge amounts of gains in each one of these countries, and this is why the United States, the central bankers, are sending military assets, sending aid, sending troops to train the Iraqis. They've already sold 24 Apache helicopters to Iraq because they realize eventually they're going to have to take action. We're going to have to send troops back into this region to maintain the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, to pay for the natural, so every other country pays for the natural resources using the U.S. dollar. And I've said this many times, if the people of these Middle Eastern countries, which include Lebanon, Libya, Iraq, Yemen, all rise up and overthrow the puppet regimes that the United States have put in there, all the other countries will no longer need the U.S. dollar. And since they do not need the U.S. dollar, they will send those dollars back to the United States, and we will see hyperinflation, and the dollar will start imploding. And they understand this, and they're taking precautions so this doesn't happen. And the precautions are to start World War III. Now, a company called Akamai is out there saying that about over a third of the cyber attacks come from China, and they're saying that they saw more attacks through the third quarter of 2013 from China, and it is steadily increasing. And again, I have to point this out. Every time there's an attack, it's always the last place it's coming from. And if any country is going to attack the United States, they wouldn't do it from one server or one location and say, oh, look, that's where the attack's coming. What they do is they bounce it off many, many different servers. The only thing they see is the last place it is coming from. They make it very difficult to trace back to the origins of the original attack, and for them to come out and completely say, oh yeah, it's coming from China, is really hard to believe. But we understand why they are saying this. It's because they want everyone to believe, and they want everyone to understand that China is becoming the United States enemy. And this is why the president was continually mentioning China, that we're going to build things better than China, we're going to have manufacturing better than China, and he was continually going on and on and on about this, believe, 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 and we know this is all a bunch of BS. We all know that there is no manufacturing in the United States. We understand what is happening around the world. China is making deals all over the place. It's setting up the yuan as the next reserve currency. They are making deals with Africa to become Kenya is the next clearinghouse for the yuan. They've been making swap deals with the UK. They've been using the yuan to sell their oil, which is the petro yuan. They've been making deals with Egypt. They've been making deals with Saudi Arabia, Russia, Australia, Japan to use the yuan in bilateral trade and to start dumping the dollar. And everyone's making sure that they're on board, because when all's said and done, they want to make sure they have the yuan and not the dollar when things start to collapse. But before that time occurs and that time happens, the central bankers will have World War III started, and we will be in war at that time. Now, we understand that the Sochi Olympics is going to start on February 7th, and we've had many, many terrorist alerts and many warnings. We have warships. The United States has warships out in the Black Sea, right by Sochi, ready to evacuate the people there. And a top U.S. counterterrorism official told the Senate panel Wednesday that he is very concerned that terrorists may strike soft targets on the outskirts of Sochi Winter Olympics. The biggest issue from my perspective, this is what this counterterrorism official is saying, is not the games themselves, the venues themselves. There is an extensive security at those locations, the sites of the events. The greater threat is to softer targets in the greater Sochi area, in the outskirts beyond Sochi, where there is a substantial potential for terrorist attacks. Now, we understand that the FBI is out there, and we know any attack that takes place, we understand this is done on purpose. This is a false flag. It is being used to scare the people that there are terrorists all around. And once the the terrorism happens out in Sochi, we can then say, oh my God, the terrorists might strike the United States, and they want all the American people afraid, scared, and running. And this is their plan. It's psychological, and they're trying to build this up. They've been building this up for years and years and years until the main event, the main false flag event does occur. Now, we understand that Syria, Iran, they still have the same goal. They want to get in there and remove the governments and put in the puppet governments and put all their natural resources on the U.S. dollar. This is their goal. Their plans might have changed because, certain things happen, but they regroup and they try and try again. And here they are ready to try again. What's happening right now, we have the Geneva II talks. They are going absolutely nowhere because the Geneva II talks were really to get Assad out of the government, but they see that is not working, so the talks are going absolutely nowhere. And right now, an analyst is saying this, that America's demand that Syria President Assad be removed from power shows that the U.S. is laying out the groundwork for war rather than for peace. If the United States insists Assad can't be part of any government, it really shows this is part of a long-term agenda of the United States to put in place a government that's friendly to the United States. And that's exactly what's happening. Congress, and again, we have to remember this. During these peace talks where they're saying we want peace, we want peace, we want to come to a solution, and the United States is out there saying we want peace, the central bankers, with the United States, they're, it's all about peace. But during peace talks, you don't approve U.S. weapons and have these weapons delivered to Syria. And on top of that, you don't do it in secret behind closed doors. And this is exactly what has happened as these peace talks have been going on. Now, how would you take it if you were on the other side saying, wait a minute, you just sent more weapons to the opposition while we're in peace talks? So you really don't want peace. And that's exactly it. They don't want peace. They want Assad removed, and they will start a war to get the job done. And of course, the chemical weapons are being removed from Syria. It is not going fast enough. They've only removed about 5% of it. The government is getting frustrated. They feel like Assad is stalling. They're building the case. That's why they built the case of war crimes against Assad. This is why they're becoming frustrated with the removal of the chemical weapons. This is why the intel came out on CNN that Assad has a cache of chemical weapons. A while back they came out with something where they said that he might be developing biological weapons, and I mentioned this in one of my other reports. And today, lo and behold, it came out again. The Syrian regime has agreed to dismantle its arsenal of chemical weapon agents, but may now have the ability to produce biological weapons. The U.S. intelligence chief told senators this Wednesday, "We judge that some elements of Syria's biological warfare program might have advanced beyond the research and development stage, and now they might be capable of using it for an attack." And this is from James Clapper. He told the Senate Intelligence Committee today that the threat assessment of Syria has just been taken to the next notch. And this is what we saw in Iraq, where they said they have weapons of mass destruction. They are starting the propaganda again. Now, the only way to push this forward, because the American people and Congress itself does not believe. They tried with the chemical weapon attack in Syria itself. It did not work. No one believed it. And when they saw the poll numbers down, they saw no one was with them, they had to back out. And this is why they mentioned something about getting rid of chemical weapons and they would be satisfied with that. Russia picked it up and went with it, and they got on board, and that was their backdoor out of the situation. Now they need to take it to the next level. The next level is some type of an attack here on U.S. soil. This is the only way that the people are going to be shocked into saying, oh my God, Syria just attacked us. They used the biological, they used the chemical. They also did a cyber attack because, again, they've been building the case of the Syrian Electronic Army hitting the United States over and over again. They've been brainwashing us. They want us to understand that this is what's happening. And we also understand the Super Bowl is happening right now. And all of this could happen all at the same time. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to use the Super Bowl and it's going to definitely happen there. We looked at many of the indicators that I pointed out in my last couple of reports, and these are things to wake us up and understand what is going on. That, you know, the FBI is there, DHS and FEMA have been training for a situation in the MetLife Stadium, and we have to realize the same thing occurred during the World Trade Center. FEMA was training for this already. They were already on the ground waiting, and all of a sudden the real event occurred. The same thing is happening here. Does it mean it's going to happen? No, it doesn't mean that. I pray that it does not happen for all those people that are in the stadium. That would be horrible, horrific, and I do not wish that on anyone. But we have to look at every single event so we can call them out on it and let them know we understand what you are doing. This is the whole purpose, because the mainstream, the corporate media that is controlled by the government would never do any of this. The alternative media is there keeping the government in check, at least trying to, and making sure that they realize that we know what is going on. And again, who knows why the American people didn't believe the chemical weapons story back in August of 2013. Maybe it was because of all the people coming out saying, no, we believe this is a false flag. We don't believe this is actually coming from Assad. We believe it's coming from the rebels. You know, we don't know. But we have to keep doing this and telling them we know what you're up to. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.